You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
All right, everybody, welcome to Phoenix FM. This is the Wrestling Rewind, show 82. My name is Darrow O'Connor, and I'm joined on the line by my co-host, Mr. Martin Herty. How are you, Martin?
Flying. How's yourself, Dara?
Not too bad. What was it? Cicada-gating, is that what the word we used last week?
Cicada-gating. What was the context in which we used that word?
Context. Dara? Your uncle would say how, yeah.
How's she cicada-gating?
How's she cicada-gating? And then what was the response?
Fierce combunctious.
Fierce combunctious. I like that. That was good.
You're going to have to do a wee bit of prep before we start the record button, because I like a few whiskies when we record these, so a week later it doesn't be at the top of my mind what we said.
That's fair. Well, I wanted to see if you still were able to remember it.
She's sagaciating, fierce combunctious.
I like it. Again, if you guys have no idea what we're talking about, you will when because we're batch taping these now. So
why don't you have an idea? Why aren't you long-term listeners?
Should know what's going on. Exactly. That's it. Again, guys, this is your first podcast. Thanks so much for checking us out. If it's on Phoenix, if it's on the Drew Penny channel, please do subscribe. Go over to Nerd to Know Media, where all the shows actually are, and then some bonus shows and all that kind of good stuff as well. Nerd to Know Basis, all that stuff. All the shows are there as well. And if you're just checking us out on Phoenix FM, what are you doing? Go over. We do podcasts. We have podcast streams. We want to hear from you. But this week, we are going to be doing something really cool for Survivor Series. And that's, we're going to tape that after that. It's going to be a rundown of Survivor Series 1997, because Survivor Series 2021 is a complete joke. And I don't want to go near that.
Survivor Series 97 is a complete joke, but for different reasons.
For different reasons, which we will get into in immense detail. But listen, before we get to that,
angry detail.
Well, that's why we're taping it after this one. So, episode 82 sadly starts off with news that nobody was expecting, Martin. Again, I'm just going to reinstate my theory, and I think it's a full blown. I think it's
Darren, do you know what I think you need to do? I think you need to record your theory onto a soundboard and just have a button that you can press every time there's a raft of releases.
That's true, dude. I don't know how they're going to be able to release. What are they going to release next? They have nobody else. They're just
Roman
every week.
Who else?
But yeah, no. See, you made a good point there in our group chat that like SmackDown is just a 2-hour Roman promo. Kinda, yeah.
who is he left to fight?
The release monster.
Yeah, because half the wrestlers that are still there aren't even there. Like, where the hell has Elias been for 3 months?
Probably hiding so he doesn't get released.
He's one of the only ones who hasn't been released. We haven't seen him.
So look, before just on that point. WWE released more superstars on Thursday. This comes from Digital Spy. Thursday, November 18th. So this was yesterday when we were taping this. Less than a month after the last round of talent cuts, which was extensive. Fightful reports WWE has released John Morrison, Tegan Knox, Drake Maverick. That really upsets me, by the way. Shane Thorne, Jackson Ryder, Top Dollar, Ashante Adonis, and Ajiah Swerve Scott. Yeah. Really upset that Drake Maverick is gone. I really like Drake Maverick. Even when he was Rockstar Spud, I actually knew him like first name basis. Super nice guy.
Maybe you know him better than I do. I never knew how to feel about him after the initial release, and then he did the video crying, and then he got rehired, and I just
That was a work.
Got a work feeling off that.
That was a work. Yeah, absolutely a work.
And I didn't. I mean, I'm all for making storylines out of real situations, but man, like 100 of your friends got fired, and you made a. I didn't like him after that.
Look, how much of that was him? How much of that was creative?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And if Vince comes up to you and says, "I'm going to fake fire you, but you're going to be one of the only people who don't lose their jobs," like, what are you going to say?
Exactly. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's either get fired then or get fired now, and
or get fired 9 months later.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a bummer, Drake Maverick. I think he's one of those talents that was not the WWE. Like, actually, all these guys that were released were not the WWE style. But then again, John Morrison, like
Johnny Nitro, is really
Johnny Nitro. Yeah, it's like, what? What more WWE do you need? Like, yeah, okay, fair enough. He's getting on there, but he's still John Morrison.
I'm pretty sure that when he was a free agent, there was a wee bit of a minor bidding war between the Fed and AEW. They both really wanted him.
Yeah.
And he went WWE, and I thought they were going to push him to the moon, because at the very least, he could have been like Edge. He could have come in as an older veteran, but like shot for the title, and even if he didn't win, he could have been like a really good opponent for someone.
But they never positioned him like that. When he was brought back, I thought, okay, here we go. He's going to have. I thought they were going to give him that kind of run, but they didn't. Like, he's been running around 24/7 and all that kind of stuff lately,
fighting zombies.
It's just not good. Like, his feud with Damian Priest was the worst thing.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, him and Morrison, it was one of the worst thing that I think I've ever seen. And that's saying something. But he's only back like 2 years, man.
Oh, it's mad. It's like even after they get over that initial sort of scrambling fear where they just hired everybody off the indies, so AEW couldn't have them. Even after they got over that, it seemed like they continued to hire people with absolutely no plan for them, no idea what to do. Man, well, look, I don't know. It baffles me.
So Maverick was previously released in April 2020 when he was part of NXT Cruiserweight's title tournament, and I do think that was a work as well. But it kind of was in service of something to get the tournament over and give a bit more of an oomph rather than it had. But I'll
tell you who surprises me is Tegan Knox.
Yes, Tegan Knox is great.
She is fantastic.
Yeah.
And what AEW needs right now is really good women.
Well, dude, right. Before we get onto that, because I do want to actually get into that's where I was going after this. Yeah. But
sorry,
no, it's fine. It's just the what I wanted to ask before that is, this is like the last releases where they're real developmental guys, right? These releases are that border between developmental and people who we've seen on either some on main roster, some on NXT. What are WWE actually like? I know I joke, and I'm not really joking. I do think they are selling, but what are they going to do? Like, how sustainable is this? Because like, there's nobody left. Like, 4 people get injured on the main roster, and they're kind of screwed.
I think it was like 2 months ago, Brian Alvarez did a rundown of the active roster on Raw and SmackDown.
It was like 25 people. Yeah.
It's like, 20, 22, 25 people.
Yeah.
So, like, I used to joke, I'd be like, oh my God, like, all these, like, Raw Retro and Raw 10-year reunions they do, what are they going to do in, like, 10 years when they have... But I'm looking at it now going, what the hell are they going to do in 5 years?
5 years. Yeah, that's actually exactly where I was going. Because...
Yeah. What's their mid-card in 5 years?
They just got rid of it. And they got rid of the rest of it last month. It's like John Morrison specifically. He was a dab hand, right? And from a dab hand to also just being really good and really talented.
Yeah.
Someone who you can plug into the mid card, put a belt on, and there you go. He'll sit there and work.
Put him anywhere.
Right?
And if you're stuck, stick him up in the in the world title run for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, for
and
2 or
then
3
knock
months.
him back down.
Exactly, while you're heating someone else.
Give him a Money in the Bank. Give him a Royal Rumble run. Just you could put him anywhere.
Exactly, and look, I would say he's not world championship material, but then again, The Miz was multi-time world champion, so it's I know.
The
So
Miz has more world titles than Jake the Snake, Mr. Perfect, Rick
Yeah.
Rude.
Well, these are different
Razor
times.
Ramon.
These are different times. And I'm just like, okay, WWE have their current, and I want to keep it WWE. Why I want to keep it WWE before we go to AEW, because that's a whole different conversation. But with WWE, what do they do? Like, what do they do from here? Because like, it seems like Triple H had a plan to ensure the company could grow its future, and they were, and everything looked okay until it got to the main roster. But now the main roster is like, it's a cancer that's just spreading, and now it's like there's going to be nobody left here. What's it, The Simpsons, that it ate everything. Did it eat Timmy? Yes. Did it eat Sally? Yes. It ate everything. And that's kind of what it's like now. It's like the insanity of whatever's going on in WWE is just spreading.
In terms of what do they do, I mean, there's two real outcomes, really. The first one is what you say.
Yeah.
If they are lining it up for a sale, what do? They don't care. Once they get it to the point of being sold, not their problem anymore.
Yeah.
Other... Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go on. Then the other one would be...
The other issue is, what do they do if it's not a sale? And even if, let's say, they haven't got it out their mid-card, let's say they do have enough young people coming up through NXT to move over to the main roster in 5 years. I mean, two things. It takes much longer than that to really be a top-level star.
And to get over, yeah.
And secondly, one of the things I love most, I don't want to compare it to AEW, one of the things I love most about AEW is the fact that it is a buffet show. You got your guys there do their comedy, their hardcore, their old school wrestling, their lucha. WWE now, its entire next generation, literally every single one of them, is all coming up through the Performance Center, the exact same style, the exact same runs, the exact same moves, the exact same looking at the hard camera, the exact same thing. Who gets over? Like,
that's the thing. And again, I don't want to draw comparisons to the power plant, but WCW didn't even do this. WCW didn't release talent. Here's the thing about WCW when it went down. It was still profitable. It still had a market. People were still watching it. The only reason WCW was gotten rid of was because they wanted it gone. The network actually wanted it gone. That's the only reason. That's the only reason why. But they didn't do this.
Yeah, the Monday Night Wars narrative is that Raw won and Nitro fell off a cliff. But if you look at like the actual Nitro ratings, they were miles. Like when the war was over, they were miles behind Raw. But in terms of just a television program, they were miles ahead of everything else on TNT.
But dude, compare it to today. Raw would kill for those ratings. Raw would kill for WCW ratings in 2001. If for real, like it's madness, It's
kind of a similar thing happened NXT. NXT was going great guns until they turned it into a war. And the whole time there was a war, NXT was doing brilliant. And then the minute the war was over, everyone thought, oh, Dynamite's on a different night, NXT's on a different night, everybody's going to watch them both and it's going to be amazing. Didn't happen. NXT just fell off a cliff.
Yeah, and look, I think it's one or the other. And obviously, I know it's a stupid statement, but I really do think that there's going to be a fundamental shift into wrestling. I think, let me phrase it that way. And the two things that you outlined are they're paradigm cementing, basically. One being that WWE gets sold as a package, and the brand gets sold, contracts that are there, and the brand WWE survives, not the actual stars. So when you watch WWE, you know what you're getting. You're going to get larger than life stars who wrestle a specific way, who do specific things in a highly produced environment, right? And that can be sold easily on Fox, can be sold easily on Disney, can be sold, whoever buys it, right? The other way kind of does the same thing, but still keeps it independent in a sense. But it's also very it's more easy to do it that way, which is why I think the sale is a little bit more unlikely if they do kind of stack the deck for the next couple of years, because they're stacking the next couple of years with stars that have that WWE brand. They're building the brand. Why are they bothering to build a brand if they're going to sell? But I do think it could be a combination of both, either where Vince cashes out and sells to someone else, but he still have a stake in it. But I do think that the days of either way, both of those scenarios lead to one conclusion: WWE is not going to be where you go after being an independent star, where you go after you've done your time in AEW
WWE is
or
where
Impact.
you go as a 19-year-old bodybuilder
or model.
or a model. Yeah, and
that's
one
where you
thing
go.
I found where they were putting out the kind of parameters for what they want from a star, and they were like, oh yeah, for a man he's got to be under 35, he's got to be over 6'2", he's got to be over 250 pounds, and then for a woman
25 is the cutoff point.
Yeah, the guidelines they gave were very carefully worded, but what they were basically saying was hot. She's got to be hot.
Hot and young.
But they couldn't say that.
Yeah, hot and young, and it's like, you know what? Listen, I find that horrifically offensive on behalf of
all hot young people like us.
No, of everybody, because it's like, if that's your parameters, right? DDP is never getting into wrestling, right? He went in as he was like 40.
35 is my age.
Yeah, when he had his match, when he had his first wrestling match, and he went off as one of the best of all time, as we're documenting, right?
Ever.
It's so short-sighted. Like, I understand it's like, okay, from a business perspective, if you have a woman at 25, she's not pregnant yet, she's not settled down yet, and you're going to get 10 to 15 years out of her before she wants to do those things, right? As a man, 35, he's still in his prime, fine, but his best years are going to be behind him after that point, as far as miles on his body.
We don't even have to say it hypothetically, because, like, look at Serena Deeb. I'm not saying Serena Deeb's not very attractive. She is very attractive. But I'm just saying WWE,
great worker too,
had her and kind of just dismissed her as a trainer.
Yeah.
And now she's one of the hottest, not hottest as a good, I mean hottest as in like amazing wrestling stars in AEW.
I love that Punk kind of reference to Straight Edge Society like the other week with Serena. It's like, oh hey, it's just, I did enjoy that a great deal. But the thing of it is, it's such a bummer, because it's like, WWE, what are you doing? Like, you should know where this goes, and this goes to the power plant. It's a combination of the power plant and Diva Search. Neither one of those things are good. Neither one of those things worked. But WWE, but again, I do think that the paradigm being set up here is that WWE is where you go after college, or maybe you skip college, and then that's it. And then you get lucky or you don't. There's no training.
This is this 6-month rolling contract thing they're doing.
Yeah.
So you get a contract, and it's a 6-month rolling contract. Every 6 months they reevaluate whether they want to keep you or not, and it's basically a tryout. You just
it's just an extended tryout, and it's a bummer, because like, you can't go off to the Indies, you can't go off to Japan, you can't go to Europe, you can't start wrestling in Bray and then have a start go out all the way to WWE. That's not going to happen, because WWE don't want that, and it's like, wow, okay, cool. I personally don't think that's going to work, WWE. I think you're going to limit yourself on, but then again, they're making millions of dollars, so what do I know? But
what do they care?
Yeah, but then at the same time, it's like, hey, all that means is, man, as much as I hate to say it, more people are going to become all elite. As fans.
The only thing I will say that I do think is definitely going to happen. So there's a whole load of stuff up in the air. Might be a sale, might be a change of direction, might be a million things. The only thing that I think is definitely going to happen at the next round of contract renewals, in terms of TV contract renewals.
Yeah.
I don't think NXT is getting renewed.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think they're gonna get knocked out.
I think USA is looking at NXT, looking what they're getting from it, looking what they're paying for it, and they're just going to go, no.
I don't see a lot of, like, from the actual running a network. Fox have to be so disappointed because they love the Fiend. They really, really, really like the Fiend.
Didn't they literally make them
Give them the Fiend?
title? Yeah,
they made them do it. So if I was a Fox executive, I'd be like, "Are you? You literally got rid of the one thing we liked.
We gave you $1 billion,
and you can't even do the one thing we wanted you to do.
He couldn't do us one favor.
Yeah.
Oh, he was difficult to work with. We gave you $1 billion.
I don't care if he's the worst person to work with. Have him on the television.
I don't care if he came to work juggling knives and babies. We gave you $1 billion.
Have a talk with him and send him out there. So I don't think Fox are going to renew. I think the WWE brand is worth the most value that it is worth now, which is why I genuinely think a sale is coming. They're going to sell. It has to. Nothing else makes any sense.
Of a wave.
Yeah. And because what happens, dude, as you said, you brought up a very good point. When TV going down, sell that stock, because that's what's there to buy.
Well,
the 25 people you have on the roster.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Like, creatively, it's absolutely bankrupt. It has hit, like they say, it hit a wave the past couple of years where it just got the right TV deals. It got the Saudi deal. Everything came along, even though the quality was crap. Everything came along.
It's been terrible for years. It's been terrible for about 5 to 10 years. WWE has been nigh unwatchable.
Yeah, and the thing is, TV execs and all that don't care because they don't watch wrestling. They just. But Vince did a great. It was.
You know who Vince is? You know who Vince is? Vince is an Irish politician. Can sell
which party?
Well, Annie can sell BS, or he's the Greek lads that negotiated the EU deal. It's like, oh, things are fine, and it wasn't fine. It was like, but you bought the bankruptcy.
Absolutely. At the absolute crest of the wave, they're making more money now than they've ever made, and they're worse now than they've ever been, and there is nowhere to go but down. Absolutely nowhere.
And the only difference between now and 5-10 years ago, AEW is smashing their teeth in.
AEW's
so,
there is a competition waiting now.
And real, not only competition. Look, AEW is a better product, right? It's a better product, better roster, better stories. It is, pandering and stuff like that, but people like that, right?
I mean, sometimes, but like it's wrestling.
Yeah, it's
wrestling. When has wrestling ever not been pandering?
Exactly, but you know what I mean. Like it is that kind of stuff.
Wrestler never ever walked out and not said, "Name of the city." I
think people build careers on that. Yeah. But no, it is that kind of thing. It's a real wrestling show that people want to watch. WWE wants to be a brand, which they are, but they're either consolidating everything into that WWE is the brand, and that's it, and that's what you're buying.
And that's how they got the TV execs and that to buy it, because they don't watch wrestling, so they don't know if it's good or not. They just know if the brand is recognizable, and you got to give it to Vince. The brand is people who don't watch wrestling call wrestling WWE.
They call it WWF.
Well,
most people still call wrestling WWF. To be fair, like the same people that call all video games Nintendo or PlayStation or PlayStation, no matter what it is, PlayStation.
Are you playing the old Mega Drive? This is my Switch. I haven't had a Mega Drive in 25 years.
That was 25 years ago.
although now, if Ma goes, "Are you playing the Mega Drive?" I mean, the Nintendo Switch expansion pack has the Mega Drive on it, so I might actually be playing the Mega Drive.
This is a very good point. Yeah, it's true. It's true. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'd be interested to see now, because obviously, well, apparently with these, and we will kind of switch gears into Full Gear now in a second, but with this as well, like the talent were completely caught off guard. They weren't expecting it. To be fair, either way, we thought it was kind of the end of it, but it looks like they're not done. They're going to keep going until they have and then what I can see, to take this theory fully out, fully develop it, what I can see happening is I can see more cuts coming probably next month. That would be really, really awful just before Christmas. Not gonna lie to you, but they did WWE do this, and then
here's what's going to happen there, right?
go on,
If your sale theory isn't right, I have another theory.
go on.
WWE is going to gradually move more and more, because we've seen this at like the likes of the Royal Rumble and that. You see where they were coming out and they did this weird 3D filming thing with the background almost looked like a computer game.
Yeah, it did.
And now instead of having sets, they have these 3D graphics that come up and all this other thing.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is WWE is gradually just going to become animated. And they won't need wrestlers at all. They'll need one guy who does the voices for 40 different wrestlers.
You know what?
Because
You know
Mario
what?
Mario can never quit. Lara Croft can never get a contract with Nintendo. Like,
Yeah. You know what? That could happen.
Yeah.
Genuinely, because here's the thing. What WWE want is they want the brand to be WWE, what you buy to be WWE, and if they're able to control whoever does whatever it is, they're going to do it. But what Vince doesn't seem to realize is the only reason people are watching WWE is because they like the wrestlers. But
or sheer like muscle memory habit.
no, you can't. Look, dude, there's the Survivor Series on this weekend, and I'm not going to go near that. And it's probably the first WWE pay-per-view that I'm actually actively not going to watch because I have no interest in even kind of watching it.
No. And we'll dig into it next week for the Survivor Series podcast. But my God, of all the big five, even back when it was big, the Survivor Series was.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. We will get into it. But no, one point before as we move into AEW,
as we shift into Full Gear.
Exactly. Tegan Knox, I think she'd be a great grab for AEW. Women's division is something that AEW need bad, like a good one, like a really good one.
Yeah.
And look, don't get me wrong though. I really like Britt Baker, like she's so good. But
they need
a bit more.
Right.
They need a few. They need like again like I know there was technically 2 women's matches on this show, with the tag match before, but I don't really like Thunder Rose. I'm not a huge fan of Nyla Rose. I'm like, I can take her or leave her. I don't like Thunder Rosa.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Shocked to hear that.
I know. I don't know what it is. Nyla Rose, I'm like, I get a great, what was it? Awesome Kong vibes from her, but not as good. It's all a bit sloppy. It's a bit loose, and that match specifically was very, very loose.
I get that with Nyla. I don't get that with Thunder so much, but I get what you mean with Nyla.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean specifically when they were working together. Like I like Thunder Rose's gimmick. I think it's cool, but when those two were working together, it really kind of hit me. I'm like, oh, that's what that is. It's that weird, loose, awesome Kong thing that it's just not right. It's not. They need 1 or 2 women who can put together these matches to make that style kind of click. Yeah. And I think WWE, by releasing them, have kind of given them the keys to build that up. So I think we're for something very cool about
Yeah, I will tell you what, AEW, as great as they are, AEW does not need Johnny Nitro.
No.
Does not need
Drake Maverick.
No. Does not need The Fiend.
No.
But AEW needs the likes of Tegan Knox.
Yeah. AEW, look, if Tony Khan is listening for some reason, 1, thanks for not being on TV. And 2, hire more women. Hire more good women. Impact, on the other hand, though, Drake Maverick needs to go back to Impact with what's his name? EC3 and The Fiend.
What is the crack with Impact? Because it has, ever since the AEW thing, in terms of the kind of, I don't want to sound like a wanky kind of lad using this word, but in terms of the wrestling zeitgeist, Impact hasn't been as prominent as it has been in years. It's been really prominent now, but when it comes to the actual viewing numbers, it's just going down and down and down and down.
It's what's going to happen. They don't have any big. See, this is the thing. I knew that was going to happen with AEW. I think I said it on the show. I didn't say it to them because I haven't really. I got an email from them back this week actually, but I didn't say it obviously to them. But like, it's I knew this was good.
You're emailing Impact.
I'm emailing Impact all the time. This is like,
like for the crack or
no, because I know all the lads that work there. In the wrestling, yeah. But yeah, like I knew this was going to happen when AEW were finished with them, because they didn't set themselves up to kind of carry on. So what Impact need to really kind of do, I suppose, what they really need to kind of do is have that, and they would benefit from a big debut. Yeah. But with that debut, it needs to lead up to something. Like Bound for Glory now was, well, come and gone. That was in October. Sorry, yeah, it was in October. And it didn't have any kind of lasting impact. Totally didn't mean to do that. But it didn't have any lasting staying power. You know, like, it was like, oh, okay, great, fine. They're not building up to anything now. And their next big pay-per-view isn't until next year. So
one thing that really got me was, I think the AEW Impact partnership would have been really good for Impact, except it happened in the middle of a pandemic. And Impact, no. Honest to God, no. Let me.
Sorry.
Say this, because I think this is. I honest to God think this is a valid point.
Okay, sorry. Go on.
AEW could put 100 wrestlers around the ring and they could make noise. Didn't sound like a 10,000 people, but it was an atmosphere.
Right.
AEW was driving viewers over to Impact, because when the thing with Kenny Omega happened, a huge number of people went over and they were wrestling in a big empty shed. And I don't care how good the wrestling is, that is difficult to watch. I
don't know. I really like Impact in the big empty shed. I think it benefits from it in the sense that, like, you can focus a lot. It's total. Impact's greatest strength was always being a different presentation. That's why I love the Impact Zone so much. I thought it was really cool. The big empty shed gives it that you're watching something completely different. But I do hear your point. The main problem is there's nothing there that happens that has any big staying power, if that makes sense. Like when something happens in WWE, everybody knows about it because it's WWE. AEW's getting there now, where like Paige winning the belt was like, oh my god, it made people actually cared, right?
It broke out beyond the wrestling bubble.
Exactly, it broke out to where you would expect WWE to be. Impact doesn't have that reach, so it needs to have its own identity and needs to have stuff going on with it, and it just doesn't at the moment.
Impact needs one of two things. Either a wrestler has to literally, physically shoot, actually real life, have a baby in the middle of the ring.
Oh my god.
Or do you remember the angle they did a while ago where they shot someone?
Oh, no.
They need to actually shoot someone.
No, obviously Martin is joking, ladies and gentlemen.
Martin is not joking. Martin suggests that Impact has a baby in the ring and then shoots it.
Jeez. What, so you want to hire Vince Russo back? Is that what you're saying? Are you just writing Vince Russo gimmicks? No.
Swerve, it turns out the baby was yours all along.
No, the baby was actually John Cena the whole time. And that's his debut. No, to be fair, right? Impact has the opportunity to do its own kind of thing, because it's not the workhorse place anymore like it was a couple of years ago. That's AEW. It has the opportunity to be a crossover between NXT, New Japan, and Lucha Underground. And I think The Fiend is the future of that. Where he shows up, he's like, this is my kingdom. And it's a little fiefdom where really weird stuff happens, but you have really good wrestling and stories. Where you can have you can have Drake Maverick showing up, and you have all these characters where, like, they're not big workhorses, but they can do stuff. Kind of like Jakara.
And let Wyndham. Let Wyndham go hell for let him go whatever he wants.
Whatever he wants. Let him whatever mad stuff he has, you let him do it.
Even if it's not great, it can't be any worse than it is now. And at best, it might bring in a whole audience who are like, oh my god, Impact's like ironically hilarious. Let's watch it.
But that's the thing. Like, I genuinely think that's Impact's niche now, is to be that kind of. It's like what NWA was trying to do as well, but obviously that thing was cursed. But that's what I would do if I was if I was booking Impact or looking towards Impact for next year or two, and maybe we can try to set something up where we get some stars on like that when they're able to. But if I was like booking that and saying, right, here's what we're going to do, I'd build it around the Fiend.
Oh yeah.
Obviously not call him the Fiend, whatever he decides to call himself.
Whatever.
Yeah, build him around that. Make
the blackguard.
Well, whatever. Make him the focus of that show where you're like, right, when you tune in, you know you're going to get a Fiend segment or Fiend whatever, and then everything kind of revolves. Kind of like what they did with Hogan or what they did with TNA when it started, where it was all get around Jeff Jarrett. If you have him as the whole company is literally around him, and everything is through his lens, so everything that goes on is still kind of happening, but you still have this overarching power that is like the Fiend is going to show up and do weird stuff. I think that would be really cool because there's nothing like that around. The closest thing would be, remember when SmackDown was on with The Undertaker, where like stuff would happen, but then The Undertaker would show up and then it would just be like, oh, well, okay. You know, that kind of ominous sense where you're like, stuff is going on, but when Daddy's home, that's it. And that's what Impact could, and no one else can really do it because there are no other characters like
WWE is your sports entertainment.
Yeah.
AEW is your wrestling. New Japan is your hardcore fans. And if you want nonsense, and people love nonsense.
People love nonsense. And look, there's nothing wrong with nonsense. Honestly,
not at all.
There's nothing like...
I didn't say that as a pejorative.
No, of course not. No, but you're right. Like, and here's
some of the best moments in wrestling history have been absolute nonsense.
And the thing of it is like, look, Barry Windham is not a good wrestler. He's really not. He doesn't have to be. He never has to get in the ring ever again. He just to show up and just be that weird dude that's in Impact, and weird stuff happens around it. And then you build an identity around it where you're like, right, it's going to be in a shed with nobody. Matches are going to happen, but then we're going to have the supernatural. And then you can build characters around whether you have supernatural powers, just like Chikara. Just do Chikara.
Like you say,
just do that,
if there's no crowd there, like you say, it makes it all the easier to do the sillier, like the silliest version of the spooky bollocks, you know?
Yeah, and the thing about it is, again, like, you're not, and then you can cross over with AEW, you can have, you know, people show, like, just imagine Danny O'Brien
serious guys,
but just imagine Danny O'Brien showing up and being like, what the hell's going on? And then he has this really weird match with The Fiend. That would bring people over. CM Punk showing up going, what is going on? You know, that kind of thing, where it would be really, really cool to see that kind of stuff where you can bring serious workers in to have these weird matches. Because what you don't want now, as WWE gets more homogenized, you want to have that separate identity. And that is anyone setting up a wrestling company, you want to have that uniqueness. It's like playing in a band. For me, right? When I play, the reason why I play the genre of music I do is, when we do it, is because we put on a show. We put on the paint, we put on the spooky stuff, you know. So when you go see our show, it's a show. It's not just, you know, five lads, jeans and t-shirts.
For any of the listeners who don't know what Dara means by paint, when Dara plays in his band, he paints himself head to toe as a Smurf.
Well, okay, well, not exactly. It's like the coarse paint. So we paint in, like, you know, red and black paint. No, sorry, white and black paint, and
it's a Smurf.
It's as a Smurf, yeah. But it is that kind of stuff, you know. So you do have that show element of it, and I think that's important. You know, when you're providing entertainment, you have to entertain people, and if it's not going to be as a sport, you might as well lean into the more
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.
Presentations of wrestling.
It's actually, ironically, for all the giving out we did about the Survivor Series, I can actually see down the line, like, if they do get some big names in, like an Impact AEW kind of 5-on-5 elimination.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Two different brands going.
Yeah, because it's not red t-shirt, blue t-shirt. It's you know, they'd really be fighting for, like, the Impact guys would be there with a chip on their shoulder to, you know, like, oh, you used us, you used our title, blah blah. And the AEW guys are there, nah, we're big time, we're gonna smack the heads of you, you know.
Well, actually, what you could do there is, and again, full on fancy booking. So you could have a best of three, where you have one in Impact, one in AEW, and then one in New Japan.
Oh yeah,
ground, and that would be cool. And the thing is, you could actually, your AEW could be your wrestling, your Impact could be your spooky weird stuff. New Japan could be where it's just, you know, a straight wrestling match.
People go to die.
An exploding barbed wire match, but it actually explodes the screen.
Not even an exploding barbed wire, man. I would take an exploding barbed wire over like an Ishii chop.
Oh well, yeah, that's
You
a
know?
fair point too. That's a fair point too. But anyway, in the time we have left, let's get into Full Gear.
Oh my
so,
god, what we got?
Look,
8 minutes?
no, we have 20. We have 20.
Okay.
So look, in the, I don't want to go through all of it.
Well, we'll skip the pre-match then.
But I do want to give you like a few minutes to kind of just talk generally about it. Like, what was the highlights of people watch it? What would be your match, etc., etc.
Okay, so I sat up, watched this live, delirious, half cut, middle of the night bottle of whiskey, and this was amazing, genuinely sensational. Came out of it absolutely buzzing. Couldn't get back to sleep. Watched it again a few days later, when it come down, and it is a phenomenal pay-per-view. It is not quite what I, seemed to experience the first time around. It is a pay-per-view with 4 or 5 really high peaks, and the 2 highest peaks are at the very start and the very end, and that's probably what gives the overall impression of it being just this, like, absolutely pivotal, life-altering pay-per-view. There are,
right.
when you watch it again, there are a few dips.
Throughout it. There are, yeah.
But overall, a fantastic show. When it's high, it's as good as wrestling has ever been. And when it peaks at the end, I have no shame in telling you, I shed a tear.
That's totally fine. Don't be worrying. I figured it would be that. I figured that would be the rundown. I enjoyed it. I watched it. I didn't watch it live because I don't know what I was doing. I was doing something else that wasn't wrestling.
Sleeping.
No, I think I was recording bass or something, and I just wasn't in the mood. Or is it either that or I was playing Jurassic World? I don't remember. Or working. It could have been any of those 3 things.
Or just cuddling. Just say you were cuddling. You don't have to.
Dude, I don't know what I was doing. I don't remember what I did yesterday. I just remember those 3 things I did a lot this week. Anyway, so yeah, I watched it about a day or 2 later on the Tuesday, and yeah, look, it still hasn't hooked me. It's as much as I'd like. I do really like MJF.
Oh my god,
I do like MJF a lot. I didn't like the Darby Allin match as much as I thought I would have. I'd preferred the Darby Allin match with Punk for some reason. But it was a good match. I was like, okay, it's a cool opener. The tag match did very little for me because I don't really have the investment that I hope I would.
Well, I actually, the tag match is a good one to talk about because they are literally 2 of the best tag teams ever.
See, I love the Lucha Brothers, but I don't like FDR or FTR.
But here's the thing: is FTR are amazing.
They are,
When you put those 2 teams against anyone else, they make whatever it is. When you put Lucha and FTR together, they just do not have the chemistry. I don't know what it is.
I'm so glad I was because I was watching this match, right, and I'm like, I like both these teams in other matches. I really like the Lucha Brothers, but in this match, I just don't know what it is, and I'm glad you said it because I thought I was going mad. I'm like,
no,
okay,
it's not the first time it's happened.
It's just they don't click at any point. It's just It's weird, yeah. It's very weird.
It's baffling. Because they're 2 of the best tag teams going right now, and for whatever reason, they just do not gel.
No, I'd much rather watch FTR. I'd much rather watch the Lucha Brothers than FTR. To be honest with you, they're much more what I enjoy from AEW's tag division, right? But
yeah,
they are both. If you see them up on a card with whoever it is, the match is going to be unreal, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's the whole time I was sitting there going, this is a good match, but I'm not invested in any way, and I don't get it. But look,
I keep wanting. I don't even care who wins. I just keep wanting it to be the end of the feud because I want them to wrestle somebody else. Because I know both teams are so much better when they wrestle anybody else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was, I'm glad I'm not the only one on that because that was my whole time that I was thinking. So, but the next match.
But before we go on to the next one, I have to disagree with you. That was one of the best openings to a pay-per-view ever. The match was phenomenal.
What, Darby Allin and MJF? Yeah,
MJF,
okay,
Darby
fine.
Allin.
Fine.
MJF, his work on the mic was phenomenal.
His work on the mic's always brilliant. Always
The
brilliant.
fact that he beat Darby like a snaky whore, beat him at the end with a headlock takeover. Num. Oh my God, and then his promo this week on Dynamite was just phenomenal.
Well, look, as I said, it didn't hook me until Daniel Bryan and Miro.
Okay.
And this is when I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. So when I mean it was 20 minutes of wrestling which you didn't think you could see anywhere, it was 20 minutes of Daniel Bryan going out and just having this phenomenal match that I'm like, holy hell, how do you just do it? Like, it's just, he's out there having a great time. And
it was
brilliant. It was brilliant.
Incredible in how nuanced it was.
Yes, that's exactly my thoughts. Yeah,
it was very much a wrestling match, and Daniel Bryan was the wrestler. Miro was the monster. Daniel Bryan was, without ever looking like he was outmatched, he was kind of the underdog. It was just so nuanced.
The story really was that there's this monster, this force of nature that needs to be tamed. And Daniel Bryan was the one to tame him. And he did. Purely by wrestling.
Yeah.
And, oh man, it was great. It was great.
Finished with another different hold.
Submission. Yeah. Which is his gimmick now at this point. But, like, if Daniel Bryan doesn't win Wrestler of the Year, there's nobody else better than him. Or no, look, there are people better than him, but actually, I don't even know if that's true anymore.
Who? Yeah,
I don't know. I don't even know if that's true anymore. I just feel like I have to quantify it. But it's more like if there is someone better than him, they're not given the opportunity to go and do it. And Daniel Bryan is like, I can just go out and have these 20-minute wrestling matches and work hard.
I'll tell you one thing as well about the triangle leg lock, whatever it's called, that he won with. That is legit, because about 2 weeks ago we started learning them in our class.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 other guys in my weight division, and one of them's a huge big farmer from Roscommon, and he stuck that triangle headlock on me, and I mean in 3 seconds everything dimmed, went dark, and I legit passed out. In
triangle chokes aren't a joke. You know, after 15 seconds, you kill someone.
You're so conditioned in wrestling to see like a submission hold go on, and you're like fighting it for a minute, and you're hovering your hand, and it gets to the point that when someone puts a submission on and like someone passes out in 3 or 4 seconds, you're like, oh, the referee could have at least waited. It's like, no, man, that's more realistic than anything, because we were in training and your man slapped that on me. I was dark in 3 seconds.
Yeah, and that's why you let go, because in 15 seconds you kill someone.
Yeah.
You know, and that's they're not jokes, like they're legit, you know. It's the worst thing about being a wrestling fan, because submission holds are kind of ruined when you start learning MMA or jiu-jitsu or anything like that, you know. You're like,
yeah.
But you know, speaking of a tag match that I did really kind of get myself into, and I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
The false count. I think the Bucks, this is their thing. This is where they really
amazing.
Shine. I love Super Click are brilliant. Adam Cole made the best decision of his career. Genuinely. Look, I know
Adam Cole must be looking at NXT now and just busting his hole laughing.
But like he must, like the thing of it is, like, even though you know that they're playing characters now, you can just see it on him that he's just having the best time. You can just see it having the best time. And look, Christian Cage, you know, I loved the run up to this, as we talked about last week. Christian Cage with the chairs and stuff, it was awesome. So yeah, it was. I'm glad they won, because you know, I think the Christian Cage and the lads need it a little bit more than Superclick, who are over anyway.
Oh yeah,
and they're needed that kind of, yeah, we got him, you know.
Yeah. And it tied in with the whole Kenny losing thing, you know.
It did, yeah. It made sense. It was the theme of the show, really. The kind of, you know, the heels finally got their comeuppance, you know.
Yeah, the fall of the Elite.
Exactly. And the same kind of thing happened in the next match where Cody and Pac defeated Malachi Black
Yeah.
and Andrade. Like this was the whole
This was
part of it.
this was the only, even the first time I watched it, this is the only part of the night where I was like, this could have been a Dynamite match.
Well, you do know that Ric Flair was supposed to be Andrade's manager, don't you?
I'd heard that before, and then the whole
and that's what this that's why this match is booked now. It was supposed to have Ric Flair there, and there was supposed to be the face off, and there just wasn't. Obviously.
I watched Dynamite earlier today, and obviously Jay Lethal debuted. And I didn't know that Jay Lethal has the same intro music as Flair.
Yeah, he does.
So whenever it started, I was like, "The
hell!" But yeah, no, it was a bit of a bummer. Malachi Black it's annoying, man. AEW have my favorite wrestler.
I
love Malachi Black.
He came in amazing.
Yeah.
He came in and he bust Cody, and then he fought Cody and he kicked his head in 7 minutes. That should have been the end of it. He never should have looked at Cody again. He should have.
Yeah, should have been. That should have been it.
And I completely agree with everything you're saying. And I actually feel the exact same about Pac, because I think Malachi and Pac could have an amazing one-on-one feud.
I think that's coming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the only thing I'd say is that every time I have been concerned about something AEW has done, they have always come good.
Yeah, they've always course corrected.
Yeah.
It seems like the goal of this was to get as many faces over as possible.
So I kind of, at this stage, I kind of just trust the process.
Yeah.
This wasn't the highlight of anybody's career.
No.
But if it's keeping those guys ticking over and it's keeping them on TV until they have something big planned, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and I'd love to see Malachi Black a little bit higher up the card, but I think they're just kind of having him on boil for a little while.
Yeah,
and then he'll go up.
Because they got some great stuff to go through at the minute. You know, they got to run through Sammy Guevara's thing. Obviously, Hangman's the champion now. He's got a whole thing to go through. They got Punk and Kingston. They got obviously Daniel Bryan's going to they got a lot going on right now. So just keep Malachi ticking over until.
Yeah, no, you're right, man. Like that's it. A lot of this stuff was just trust the process and kind of move on, and that takes us nicely into the Britt Baker obviously won. We said that she's like the most over person in AEW in lots of ways. So there's never a chance to win. But were you happy with, because we talked about last week that Tony Conti, you were like, she's not going to win, but it's going to be a good match. Were you happy with that? I was very happy. I thought it was a great match, but
I thought
we knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, Ty Conti was never winning, but it was a great match. It got her over.
Yes,
as like a top level competitor, you know, even though she didn't win, got her over as like a top level threat. And what I really liked about it was I think this only works with AEW because they only have the pay-per-views every 3 months. The fact that she came out in totally new gear, face paint, you know, it was a big fight feel. It felt like something different. I really enjoyed this match. It wasn't perfect. A couple of sloppy moments, a couple of bits where, you know, people felt out of sync. But overall, I thought it was a really good match. I really liked the finish, actually, because it was the champion kind of scraping out a win, you know.
And I think that got them both over, you know, as far as like, it's like we have, you know, we took you to the limit almost. And I think by building out the women's division in that way, it means that Tay Conti is Tony Conti. Maybe that's Tay Conti can actually be a legit threat in future. Where like, okay, just say Rebel wins the belt, or they bring in someone to win the belt, or Nyla wins the belt back, or whatever.
Jamie Hayter, I think, is awesome.
Yeah, but what I mean is like, just say any of them win the belt. There's still a legitimate threat from Conti that she can actually get it done. You know what I mean? It still keeps her.
And I think the fact
belt.
I think the fact that Baker only won with like a kind of a reverse wrestling roll-up type thing, I think that makes the threat of Thunder Rosa all the more prevalent.
That's a fair point too. That's a very fair point. So what's a?
Oh, come on, let's do it. Let's do it.
So happy to be there. Phil came out and defeated Eddie Kingston.
Don't you feel stupid?
Yeah, I do a little bit. Yeah. do a little bit. So yeah,
AEW.
he wasn't happy to be there, Phil.
Oh my
This night.
God.
He was actually CM Punk this night.
This was the shortest match on the card, and
Yeah.
it was contender for the best.
Look, it wasn't technical classic like Brian's
Never meant
match,
to be. It didn't have to be.
but it didn't have to be. It was actually you know what? It could have been Falls Can Anywhere and a holds barred or something like that. But I think having it with some rules helped the brutality a little bit because they had to kind of they couldn't go totally unhinged. It was a great match. It really was. Like, and it's this is Punk, but he should have been this from the beginning. You know what I mean?
But I think you needed that. I don't think he could have come in like that. I think he needed that transformation. What did it for me was that bit where Eddie's beat, Eddie's down on his knees, and Punk's laying elbows into him, and the crowd boos him, and Punk looks up at the crowd and he's like, "Right, screw you," and he starts laying knees into him. Like, oh my! It's all this whole match. Even though this whole match was like a brutal brawl, it was the tiny little things that made this match amazing.
But that's what makes wrestling. It's always the nuance. Yeah. It's never anything really big because the big stuff, it really has to work or else it ends up like the exploding ring that didn't explode. But the nuances are the thing that carries you through. That little moments, the subtle heel turns, the humanity of it, the acting as such, the performance. And Punk, this was great. This was like the best I've seen of Punk in years.
It's so bizarre because.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for this edition of the Wrestling Rewind here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. If you want the full show, there's two ways you're going to be able to get it. Join us live, 11:30 p.m., 6:30 p.m. Eastern, over on the Wrestling Rewind YouTube channel. TheWrestlingRewind.com will get you there, and you can join the chat and join in on the fun. Also, if you want, you can check us out on the podcast. The podcast can be got from our channel, Nerd to Know Media. You can subscribe there, or you can go to the Two Penny channel, or the Two Penny Show channel, and you'll be able to get it there for free, no cost to you, and there's a whole bunch of content there as well. But thank you for checking us out here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, the Wrestling Rewind. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.